Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It is your weekly dose of digestible content from me, Sean Butler, and my main man, Dave Harris from the Irish Hotspur. How are you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm all good, Sean. A bit battered and bruised off the Ireland international break, but look, I can't wait for Ange Ball again, my man.
It's been a long time. I think we've all been struggling to find a way to get through the last 7 days. We've got 5 days now until we're back against Sheffield United. Let me just start with that, actually, buddy. How motivated are you? How confident are you that we're going to not see any disruption to the momentum that Ange Ball has created for us in the first opening month of the season?
Look, I think it's a very kind of fixture for us to sort of get our feet back in under the table after the international break, because we've seen before, in the previous managers where we go away on an international break, we come back, we sort of take a while to get going again. I think this time under Ange Postecoglou, I think with it being Sheffield United, I think it's a favourable fixture for us to go out there, sort of get used to playing with each other again after being away for 2 weeks, get 3 points before you head into the likes of the North London Derby and then Liverpool. So, yeah, look, I think it's a kind of fixture to us, and it's one we should win, and hopefully keep the good vibes going into the North London Derby, Sean.
Just quickly on that, we haven't really played. We have got a different topic to talk about, guys. And before we get going, before I go any further, let me ask everyone, as always, smash the like button on the video like you always do. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Join the 17,100 fans that have gone before. Welcome back to them. Welcome to the new. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment on the discussion. But also make sure you smash the subscribe button over on the Irish Hotspur as well. Dave and I, we go back a long way. My very first entry into the Tottenham community started out with a 45-minute argument about Daniel Levy, which funnily enough, is something we're going to be talking about in a minute. But before we get to that, Dave, just on the Sheffield United game, we haven't played a team yet who has sat back and done the low block. Right? We haven't really. Brentford, Burnley, United, all of those games. Who was the fourth game? Why am I forgetting the fourth game? Bournemouth. All of those teams sort of tried to come out and play a little bit. Yeah. We haven't really had to navigate the complexities of like a 10-man or a 5 and a 4 sort of structural setup at the back. To me, I think we're going to learn a lot on Saturday about where we're really at, because I think we're going to, if we continue in the vein of form that we're playing, then we're going to end up facing, the bottom half of the table are probably going to set up against us in that way, both home and away at times this season. So would you say that the Sheffield United game is as big a test, or the result from the game is as big an indication of where we are as what will happen with the result from the Arsenal game? Or do you think Arsenal is more important?
Look, for me, the North London Derby is more important. We got slapped twice last year, home and away, and I think, we'll want some retribution for that. I think Sheffield United will be a good warm-up. Look, Arsenal, of course, we know, I think now they're confident enough to come and press us, but, we know under Conte, right? Even then when we went for the Champions League run, when Brighton and Brentford sat back against us in their games, we really sort of struggled to break them down. I think there's lessons to be learned from them that we can apply to the likes of the Sheffield United game. For instance, in them games, we played everything in front of them. We didn't have the wing-backs to go on the outside and get the ball in behind. I think one of the big differences will be someone like James Maddison, where he offers that pass from central areas where he can put it in behind, thread it in behind. I think that's what we have to do. There's no point of playing the ball in front of these teams, because that's what they want. And it actually makes their day a lot easier, because then all they have to do is shift side to side and block up the spaces. What we want to do is start turning them. So start getting balls in behind, instruct the likes of Sonny, make constant runs in behind, instruct your midfielders to make runs beyond Sonny at times and get Sonny to drop in, get your wingers to try and cut in, make running cuts inside and then in behind. There's plenty of things we can do. Look, it'll be a very, very good test in terms of how we navigate this. But these games, it's all about just constantly probing and putting balls in behind, not playing everything in front of them, which, I'd argue we sort of done against Brentford at times in that Brentford game. A lot of the times we looked to cut inside, and a lot of our momentum or a lot of the space was gone then, because we ended up playing it right back across the front of them, and it ended up becoming a very, very frustrating game. So yeah, I think Postecoglou hopefully would have learned from that and would instruct the guys, start playing it in behind, and start getting them turned, because that's what them teams don't want. That's why they play that system. because they know they're vulnerable if they play higher up the pitch when the ball's put in behind. So although it's lower, there's other ways around it that we can do it. Put the balls in behind from angles, this, that, and the other. So that's what we need to focus on going into this game. Win that, we go to the Emirates full of confidence. Who knows what we can do there?
Well, yeah, and I love what you just said. And, you know, for me, the Emirates, just quickly, will be determined, in my opinion, on how well we can create the kind of the triangles that are available, the always obvious accessible pass from having two inverted fullbacks when you have the ball, that 2-3-3-1 or whatever you want to call it, 2-3-4-1 situation that we got. It's unique in the Premier League. Arsenal, Manchester City, the teams that do play with inverted fullbacks, they only really ever play with one, not two. Ange plays with two, which always allows you with a triangle pass. The problem is that when you do lose the ball, when that one of those passes is inaccurate against some of the best teams in the opposition or in the league, in terms of opposition, they're going to look to pivot and push the ball down into the corners. And to me, when you see Martinelli against Porro, when you see Saka against Udogie, that to me is those battles are going to determine who wins the game, whether or not we can get back and retrace and figure out a way to defend, but also at the same time take our opportunities when creating those triangles going forward. But all that stuff is to be discussed in the following 10 or so days between now and the Arsenal game. Let's hope that Sheffield United is good. But what I do want to talk about, Dave, and I think it's very relevant. There is, I don't know if anyone's seen it. Let me bring it up on the screen. I got this email a while back, about a week and a half ago. Dear Sean, we are delighted to invite you to apply for a place at our upcoming fan forum on Tuesday, the 19th of September. So it's just after the Sheffield United game, funnily enough, before the Arsenal game, before possibly the first real test of the season. The fan forum events have proven extremely popular in the past, and our latest edition promises to be bigger and better than ever before. It's funny they say how popular it's been in the past, but they haven't, as far as I'm aware, had one ever since Pochettino days when Tottenham were up in the title challenge against Leicester City. In a nutshell, I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but in a nutshell, the panel will be hosted by BBC broadcaster and Spurs fan Niall Arthanayaki. But the people that will be there are club captain Heung-min Son, men's head coach Ange Postecoglou, and more important and more crucially, it's chairman Daniel Levy. I really want to know what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah.
Broadly, Dave. It's been a long time since he's put himself and put his head above the parapet. Is the timing suspicious to you, or what does it indicate?
Look, I think there's two things towards it, Sean. I think the first thing is, he's got likable characters, right? Everyone loves Ange Postecoglou. Everyone loves Sonny. Back then when he done it with Pochettino, everyone loved Pochettino. He was never ever going to do it with someone like a Jose Mourinho on a Conte, for instance, because he knows he can't control what they're going to say at any given moment. They're their own man, so they'll sit there and they'll have no problem calling out mistakes, this, that, and the other. So he's never, ever, ever going to take that risk, especially when they're calling them out in press conferences and stuff like that. When you look at Ange Postecoglou, although I think Ange Postecoglou is his own man, I think he's also smart enough to sort of toe the club line to a certain extent as well, to keep himself in the position. But also I think he views it as, instead of challenging Daniel Levy, if I sort of go with him and sort of prove to him over this first year, then I'll get the keys to the kingdom, if you like. And I can start maybe asserting my influence across that way. And look, it's no coincidence that he's doing it now when times are good. And I think this is one of the things that probably lets Daniel Levy down, Sean, is because over the last 3 to 4 years is when you needed your owner the most to engage with fans. And I think he's missed that opportunity. He didn't show any balls. He sort of hid behind things. He went and done a Cambridge interview, which, really rubbed people up the wrong way. Just like, look at our football club. It's in the mire. We're the ones you should be speaking to. We're the ones you should be doing something like this fans forum with, but you're not. You're choosing to just, brush all the problems underneath the carpets. And I think that's where he lets himself down, Sean. He doesn't front the conversations when they need to be front. He sort of only does it when he knows he's got people that won't speak out of turn, and also when things are going well, because it's good PR for him, it's good PR for the club, but also not too many people are going to challenge him when things are going well, right?
Well, listen, I completely agree with you that there's been plenty of opportunities for him to do this recently since Pochettino, and he hasn't chosen to in the last 24 months. I don't necessarily know what the rules of engagement are, whether or not the questions that are asked from people are literally put your hand up and you get the microphone, or whether they have to be pre-vetted. I'd be surprised, regardless of whether or not there are good times happening at Tottenham. I'd be surprised, however, if a not insignificant amount of the questions that are asked, if they are not pre-vetted, are going to be aimed at Daniel Levy over Sonny or Postecoglou, and regarding why why Daniel Levy has made the decisions he's had, and and taken the direction that the club has gone in. Even though times are good, it was only 3 months ago that times were pretty bleak at Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham are second in the league. Our youth team is first in the under-21s, having just smashed Manchester City. There probably is no better time for Daniel Levy to do this, where he can at least use the early kind of the green shoots of recovery as an indicator of a grander plan that is starting to materialize. But I do agree with you that, he hasn't been there in the past. For me, I wonder whether or not this is going to still backfire on him. And I think that he still is going to be on the receiving end of a lot of difficult questions.
Well, it comes down to what you said, right? Are the people vetted going into it, or are they not? I think if you vet the people, I think they can sort of preempt what sort of questions will come up, right? Whereas if they, sort of don't know the people coming in there, they could be asked anything. They could be asked over the last 4 years. They could be asked over the prices of their ticket hikes and stuff like that. But, when I was reading into it, I think if there's a tie on some of the people being put forward, then they'll do like a vetting process and all this sort of stuff. I mean, look, it'd be interesting to see what comes of it. It'd be interesting to see if there is anyone turned away and for what reason. But look, Sean, I would propose a question to you then, my man. I think, look, from a business sense, I think it's absolute opportune time for him to come out and do this like he did under Pochettino. But from a leadership sense, is it weak leadership? Because for me, the true test of a leader is when you're in hard times and how they come out front up, show that leadership to drag you through, but come out and drag everyone else through it with you. Is it then signs of weak leadership that he hasn't done this over the last three and a bit years?
Yeah, I genuinely think it is. Even every stock market listed company has to do an AGM every single year that shareholders are invited to. And in my previous life, when I was involved in that side of the industry, I maybe sat in, 100 different kind of conference rooms listening to shareholders who have been invited as a benefit of being a shareholder in the company to be able to go and listen to the board of directors explain their performance. Obviously, the vast majority of the questions that are asked are from journalists that are going to or analysts who understand the intricacies of the company, and to be able to then go and report back and come up with their own sort of ideas of whether or not the company's going in the right direction or otherwise. But most of the time, shareholders do get a chance to line up and ask questions. And I've seen a fair share, a lot of very heated conversations between angry shareholders for poor performance, throwing certain arrows and darts towards the board of directors for whatever they perceive to be a dereliction of duty. And Daniel Levy doesn't have to do that, even though he has minor shareholders, because not every shareholder sold their shares when Tottenham were delisted from the alternative investment market. He hasn't had to do that to the same degree. And so this is their version of that. And I do find it a bit weak. I do find it very weak to think that he only chooses to do it once every 5 or 6 or 7 years when things are looking not quite as bleak as they were just a short time ago. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. I personally can't wait to see the outcome of it on Spurs Play. But again, whether or not the entire thing is streamed or whether it's just the highlights, again, we'll find out whether or not that's edited to remove the difficult questions, if difficult questions are in fact being able to be asked. Do you think do you think that one of the questions that should be asked is something around, can you please confirm that you're going to do this once every year, regardless of the outcome of the football club's successes on the pitch?
Yeah, I would like a definitive answer on that, because for me, I think, look, as fans, with the amount of money we pump into it, you've got people out there working their socks off to be able to go to games and stuff like that. And I just think for sort of what would you call maybe the start of bridging a relationship or building a relationship going forward, I think it would be ideal. You know, it can't be one of these where it's that one-sided. You're only coming out and answering questions in the good times. You know, like I said, a good leader, you know, and the test of a great leader is how they deal with the tough times and how to drag everyone through with them. And for me, I think this is where he has missed opportunities down the years. And I think this is where, you know, a lot of what people say about him, that, you know, he's only a businessman, he doesn't care about Tottenham, this, that, and the other. I think that's where a lot of the narrative comes from, that, you know, he only comes out when times are good and not when times are bad. But look, what I would say, Sean, going forward is it would be nice if, you know, this could be the start of a good relationship where fans can put their concerns forward in the right manner, but also that Daniel Levy doesn't shy away from answering them if there is concerns, just like he doesn't when the good times are about. So for me, I just hope that fans and club now can sort of use this as a platform going forward to maybe start trying to build back, or trying to build some sort of relationship going forward. I think that would be the right outcome of this. Now, look, of course, it's not going to appease everybody, but if this can be sort of building steps to bigger and better things, I'm all for it and I'm all behind it. But it can't just be that one-sided, because that's where that's where you struggle to argue with people who maybe speak against Daniel Levy, and look, rightly so, because, you know, a lot of the things over the last few years haven't been great. Is when he does stuff like this. So this has to be something that hopefully he's looking to build upon going forward as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And the last question I'm gonna have for you, just to clarify, though, I feel like I might have misspoken. Obviously, when I was talking about companies that are publicly listed, they have an obligation to talk to their shareholders. They haven't got an obligation to talk to their customers. And this is a slightly different environment in that it's actually open to the customers, essentially the season tickets and the members, rather than the shareholders. I'm not sure if I can remember whether or not they do actually do their own AGM for shareholders to have some sort of other availability to ask questions, and maybe the shareholders are slightly different in that regard. So I don't want to come out. I want to make sure that I'm clear that there is a difference between shareholders being given the chance to ask questions versus customers. Not all publicly listed companies offer what Daniel Levy is, but I do think it's a step in the right direction. I just would hope it to have a more consistent basis that is irrelevant to whether or not the club is doing well, that there should always be some sort of opportunity to be able to ask sort of certain questions of where the club is going. On that, Dave, are there any specific questions that you would hope that certain season ticket holders or people that have access to the show are going to want to ask regarding maybe Paratici, regarding net spend, regarding things like the Northumberland development? Is there any particular questions that you hope are asked, or people that are going to be there?
Look, for me, I prefer to ask questions about the football side of things. It's what I sort of ultimately care about. Look, I want clarification on what the sort of transfer strategy is going forward. Are we going to wait for Paratici's ban to be up and put him back in the role? Are we not? Are we going to move on? Now, look, I'll be honest, I don't think Daniel Levy's going to answer that regardless. You know, I don't think you're going to get clarification on that whatsoever. I don't think he's ever going to come out and sit there and go, yeah, I'm waiting for Paratici's ban to be finished and then be put back in, because that opens yourself up for investigations. How much hands-on has Paratici had this summer if he comes out and bats his boy like that? Also, I'd like clarification if things do get, sort of tough under Ange Postecoglou. I'd like assurances that this is a 4-year project, like the contract that he signed, and that we are going to see this through, because we can't continue to go through 2-3 managers every season. They're down in the bottom half of the Premier League, down in the relegation battle. That's usually what happens, and you can very easily slide down that way if you carry on like that. So I want assurances around Ange Postecoglou's future, but also I'd like, what sort of future-led fan engagement are you going to bring towards the supporters? Because I do think these businessmen have to understand it's not like any other business where they go into. They start a business, they build up their clients and their customers and stuff like that. But ultimately, there's not really any sort of brand loyalty there. They're there before the customers. Whereas with football clubs and sports clubs in general, you know, it's passed through generations, you know, and a lot of the supporters are there before the owners. So I do think they have to understand that they have to engage with fans of clubs a little bit differently, because ultimately they have been there before the owners and they'll be there long after the owners. So I do hope that maybe he can devise a plan going forward where there is going to be more engagement with supporters rather than shy away from it, and that he looks at it as a good thing rather than a negative. But that'd be the sort of things I would like to know going forward. But also, you know, what's the plan with the under-21s, the youths stepping up? We've got so much that we're after buying in. We've got so much that we're looking to that are coming up underneath. What's the pathway for these guys going forward? What's the plan in general? Is the plan to start bringing these under-21s up, or are we going to go out there and spend more and more money? Because I think, you know, we need to know what the plan is going forward so that we whether you agree with it or not, we can wrestle with it and then we can move forward with it, rather than sitting here, club going, okay, the plan is to bring through a lot of these guys on the money that we spent on the youths, and then every fan, every window is looking at, say, you know, per shores or this or that, and we're hoping that they comes in, because all that does then is fans want one thing, the club have a different idea, and you're just butting heads all the time. So 100%. I do want clarity over that. What's the future looking like in terms of squad? Are we bringing through the under-21s, or are we going out and investing?
100%, mate. This is a conversation that we are going to talk about tomorrow in depth. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the trio or the duo who understand more about our youth team than I think any other content creators on YouTube, in my humble opinion, and that is Dave and Johnny H from Twitter. They're going to come back for the Devil's Advocate show tomorrow lunchtime, and we're going to be going through again just exactly what is going on with the youth team. We've got this new guy, Luka Vukovic. We've got Ash Phillips. We've got Alejo Veliz. We've been signing these players this summer that have got massive reputations. We also have an under-21 team that is sat currently top of the under-21 league, having smashed the likes of Newcastle 5-0 away from home. Smashed the likes of Manchester City 5-0 away from home. Beaten Newcastle, 15 goals scored, 1 goal conceded. Undefeated in the trophies as well. Tottenham's youth team looks fantastic, and it's a wonderful thing to see. However, you also look at the average age of the first team, and you have to ask questions around whether or not any of these top talents that are coming through are going to be feeling the detriment of having people in front of them that are possibly ahead of them in the pecking order, probably ahead in the pecking order, that also have so much time on their side. So it's a conversation that we have to go through. How do we find a room? How do we get absolutely every single person that deserves a chance to have a chance when you have the balance of a young first team and an incredibly talented under-21 side? It's going to be a very interesting discussion. Look out for that tomorrow. Dave, I want to say a massive thank you, mate. I hope that your questions are answered in the fan forum in front of Daniel Levy. Guys, let me know in the comments what questions you want to see the people that do attend that meeting. Ask Daniel, ask Ange, and ask Heung-min Son. Dave, where can people find you, my man?
Yeah, you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. Look, do what every other content creator does, nothing special. But if you do like what I have to say on my inputs, get over there, smash the subscribe button, because you'll also see your boy over there as well. So, you know, even when you're watching in, 9 times out of 10, Sean will be there anyway. So why not smash the subscribe button?
The link for Dave's channel is in the title and in the description. Guys, do drop a comment below. Let us know whether you enjoy this. Let us know if you have some other conversations that you'd like us to talk about in future weeks. Every single Monday or Tuesday, these videos are going to be put out. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow with Dave and with Johnny on the Devil's Advocate here at the Spurs Talk Show. We're going to leave it right now. Love you all. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, guys, come on, you Spurs.